a dish that I've done before, but I've got some spare potatoes, so we'll do it again because I wasn't 100% happy with it the first 2 times that I did it. I've done it more times than that, but I've filmed it 2 times. So we'll do it again and we'll kind of see how it turns out. So it's going to be a potato rosti that we cook it in the pan on top of the stove. And we're going to see how it turns out. So what we've got it's potatoes, and was there about 2.5 kilos of potatoes. I have grated them on a normal box grater and I've squeezed the water out of them. This is pretty straightforward. You grate them on the box grater. It's that on that grating setting there. I have grated them, and then what we need to do is we need to squeeze the water out of them, which I'll show you. I've done most of it, but you can just see. So, and then you kind of see how much water's kind of come out of the potatoes, and then you're left with also potato starch at the bottom of that. If you're really frugal, you can save that, and it will thicken up soups and stews and sauces and things. The French call it fécule, which is rather an amusing thing to call it from all the English speaking nations' point of view. So, in a cloth that you don't care about, grate it, and then you're going to give it a squeeze just to get rid of the excess moisture. It just stops it from being soggy, well, as soggy as it would be, because otherwise you need to drive off that moisture while you're cooking it. So just give it a squeeze. What you can do is you can just pat it dry with a cloth, but tying it in a cloth and giving it a good squeeze like that just seems a little bit more satisfying. Pretending that maybe you go rotting someone that you don't like. So that gets most of the moisture out. We still want some of the moisture, but there we go, that's out of the way. And then, what did I say I've got? There's about 700 grams of sliced onions, and there's about, well, it's a homemade bacon and it's quite dry, so there's 150 grams worth of my bacon, but it's kind of quite dry, so I would say it'd be about 250 grams of normal bacon, if that's what you were using instead of that. Hang on, I've forgotten how much herbs there was. And then I've got some herbs out of the garden, because it's that time of year. I've got some parsley, I've got some chopped chives underneath that as well, so I've forgotten how much that weighed. And then on there is about 50 grams worth of chopped herbs. And then we've got some of the cheap Greek style cheese. I don't know why it's called Greek style cheese instead of feta. There will be reasons, probably because it's not made in Greece, or the quantities of milk that you're supposed to make feta out of. It's probably not the right ratios of cow and sheep or goat. But anyway, so that's that. So I fried off the bacon so it's nice and crisp, and we are left with the lovely fat, the lovely lard from the bacon, which is going to flavour the potato rosti. But what we need to do first is we just need to make a layer of potato in the bottom, because the potato is going to caramelise, but things like the herbs and the onions and the bacon have potential that are going to burn, so we just need to build up a layer first in the bottom of the pan, which is going to protect the ingredients as well, and also kind of stop the cheese from getting down to the bottom of the pan and burning, all that kind of stuff. So we'll work it way up the sides. I'm going to cook it on top of the stove this time. I think I've cooked it in the oven in the past, can't quite remember, but we'll work it up the side of the pan, which is like a wok pan, but non-stick. So just work that up the sides of the pan, and then we'll combine the rest of the ingredients and season them. So that's that. It doesn't matter if we go too far of the pan. If the filling only comes to there, it doesn't matter. We'll just simply fold the potatoes down onto it. So then, I've already put pepper in there as well, so we don't need to grind the pepper on camera. So we're not cooking the onions, because the cooking process will cook the onions. I don't like raw onions, but we are cooking everything together, so the potatoes and the onions will cook. And then we need the parsley in as well. and I'm going to use free running salt. Of course, there's this, and about that much, which you probably would think is quite a lot, and it is, but we need to season things properly. So I should have got a bigger bowl to mix all this in, but it doesn't matter. How very unprofessional of me, but I'm making bread and my big bowl has got bread proven in it. So one of those things that you can, the filling can be anything you want. That's alright. That's better. Probably a little bit more seasoning as well. And what we'll do is we'll put some of the filling in, and then we'll put some layer of cheese, and then we'll put more filling on top. I think that'll be for the best. So I don't want the cheese leaking out. I wouldn't like quite a layer of cheese in it going through the centre. But as always, everything's a bit of a faff and a bit of a mucking around. So that's that. And even if the stuffing, this bit is too big for the pan, it will cook down, and when we start losing some moisture, so we're not to worry about that too much. So more of that. I'll do the dimensions of the pan in the description. Probably could have done with more bacon, but this is more of a case of, I thought of a different way of doing it. So this is what this is. So yeah, that's okay. That cheese is not going to go down to the bottom of the pan. So that's fine. So get rid of that. Get rid of that. Put the cheese. We are recording, aren't we? Yes, we are recording. And then it's just 200 grams of cheese. Any cheese that you've got. This just happens to be nice and acidic and cheap. It's like 75p for that, which I think is a bargain. I just want a layer of cheese. So just a bit of a break up. It's nice and salty as well. It's not a bad cheese. It's just not a particularly good one. It's all right for cooking. So like that there. So hopefully when we cut into it, we'll have a layer of cheese, and then the rest of the potatoes and onion and bacon on top, and it will be extremely full, but that's fine because it'll cook down. You'll see. But last time it wasn't just as crispy on top as I would have liked. So I was having a think and I remembered something that might just help it, because I did put a lid on it. There needs to be steam created, so the steam's going to come up from the bottom and it's going to cook all the other ingredients. But if you imagine that the bottom is going to cook a lot quicker than the top, so it's alright when you're cooking things in the oven, because the hot air of an oven surrounds everything, so it cooks from the bottom and from the top and from the sides, and then you only have to worry about that centre. The problem when you're cooking things on top of the stove is you have to worry about things, the heat getting into the top. So that's why I put a lid on last time, and it wasn't just quite as crispy as I would have liked around the sides. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right, so press down. Might as well put some heat on now underneath it. We've got the potatoes in the cloth that we never added. That's alright. So we've got even more potatoes. It's planned out as ever, so more potatoes which we'll lunch on the cloth. That's alright. They don't need to be mixed in with the rest of the ingredients, they need to be seasoned. So loads of potatoes, complete panful. Squish down. And then we've got a bit of this one scissors. Oh, I've got scissors. No, we'll do without. So, a bit of baking parchment, and then we're going to make a circle. So we do this by, it's an old bit, I've used it for something else. So in half again, and then fold that way, and that way there, and then we're left with a cone. So centre of the pan where the point is, and then this is where we're going to rip, well, cut actually. See, my scissors aren't anywhere close, I don't know where they are, it doesn't matter. So that there, like that, get rid of those edges. Then and put that on top, which you may say, well, that's just like a pan lid, you might as well use a pan lid. But the steam's going to get out from the sides, and also the steam's going to get out from the centre of the cartouche as well. So hopefully steam won't build up too much, and we'll be left with a crispy outside. So heat on, and then medium heat. Don't want to be too hot, don't want to be too cold. So it kind of wants to fry, also kind of wants to steam as well. But what we're aiming for is crispy on the outsides, cooked on the centre. We'll see how we go. I am concerned that this is a little bit wet and the outsides are not going to be crispy. So I think to try and save it, and also kind of so I don't have to make it again, I think we're going to bake it in the oven. Now I can't, this pan's got a plastic handle, so we can't bake that in the oven, but what we can do is we're going to transfer it to something else. So I'm just going to loosen it around the side, so hopefully it comes out, but I'll transfer it into something else, and then let's give it a bit of heat. Transfer it to something else, and then with the cartouche off the top of it, and then that bit will cook and crisp up, and then hopefully the outsides will crisp up as well. So see if we can get this out. See if we can get this out. So that one there, and then do it off camera because there's not enough room to turn over. Hopefully it will come out. That's looking alright. It's looking alright. And then I've got an old wok which has got the handle taken off, which is sometimes used in the oven. So we can use that to bake it in the oven. So that's alright, we don't need to do that. So turn it back over. It's just slightly a different size, but it should be okay. So there we go. That's that. And I will bake it in the oven. So doing it on top of the stove doesn't work, but baking it in the oven should. So we should evaporate off some of that liquid that's keeping it a bit soft, and hopefully the outsides will crisp up as well. And if we need to crisp up the outsides a little bit more, what we can do is we can put it then back on the top of the gas and give it a blast of heat and crisp it up. So fingers crossed. So 180 degrees I think should do the job. I think we've cracked it. I say we, there's only me. There we go. Nice and crispy on the outsides, crispy getting on the top, cooked. I think I will do it again. I will do it again just to kind of cook it from raw in the pan in the oven, and then I think we'll get the best results. But let's just see how it turns out. We'll turn the oven off because it's certainly cooked all the way through. I think we'll have to do it again because I want to cook it from raw in the oven, and then we'll see how it turns out. So there will be a fourth video, but it will be the definitive one. So hopefully it'll pop out, and I'm about to have a look at it. There we go. That's what we wanted. Yeah, I think if I cooked it from raw in the oven, it would have been crispy on the outside. All that water would have evaporated off in the oven, and it would have been crispy and crunchy. It certainly would have been crispier than this, because it's still, you know. But anyway, I don't know. It's not a particularly sharp knife. I don't know. I'm not. I don't think there's such a thing as failure, or maybe there's catastrophic. I can't even pronounce it. Can't even say it. Catastrophic failure, but it leads you somewhere else. You know, things lead you in different directions, and I think, well, maybe you give up for a little while, and you kind of go, that's not working, and we'll have another go. I've had enough. I'm not going to do that again. But then you have a think about things, and you have another go, and it leads you in another direction. So I think we'll have a final go at this, and it'll be the definitive version. And we'll just turn this on its side, and we'll see how it looks. We need a bit more space, actually. Look at that. Put that on its side. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. That looks impressive, does that? That looks alright. Yeah, so I think cook it from raw, in the pan, without a lid on, just in the oven, and I think that really works. I did it with just potato and onion, and a bit of cheese, a bit of bacon for flavour, and some herbs. But kind of pack it out with whatever you want. Yeah, I put the timer on in case I forgot, so that's what the timer was. But there you go. Now that works. I'll do it again, not as in tomorrow, but maybe in a few weeks' time we'll get that recipe down and make it absolutely spot on. But it's kind of crunchy. I've got a fork. Get a fork out on the taste. But I might just have that for my breakfast tomorrow morning with a poached egg or two. That would be nice. And we'll just have a taste, see what it tastes like. It's going to be delicious. It's potatoes and bacon. I'm talking about a mouthful. That's really nice. I think cooked in the oven from raw is the way to go. I think cook it in a frying pan on top of the stove would take too long. You could probably do it with if it wasn't as deep, but that's kind of quite deep, and that is 8 really good sized portions is that. So incredibly cheap as well. Potatoes are nothing. 75p for the cheese, the bacon. I think maybe £2 for the kind of cheap bacon. Herbs from the garden, onions, maybe like 70p for the onions. Potatoes, £1 for 2 kilos of potatoes. That's really cheap, and a filler. Serve that with a couple of fried eggs, and people will love you forever. Yes, so it's a success, but we just need to refine it just a little bit more. But I kind of think you could put anything you wanted inside, so a good way of using up leftovers. So even like the veg from a Sunday roast. So if you had some cauliflower and some roast potatoes and some peas, you would take those, mix that in with the potatoes, potato filling, and then a layer of cheese, and that would be delicious the day after. there we go. Works a treat.